This is John Horn. I'm track announcer at Vernon Downs. Today, we're on a cold day here in February. It's been snowing, and the weather just isn't nice. It's windy. But as you look, you're going to see all the numbers here. These are going to be full with horses. And this year, it's going to be the 70th anniversary here at Vernon Downs, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We had a great year last year, a lot of great new things. This year, it's going to be even better, and we just can't wait till we hear that music and that first race gets out there and the fans are having fun, and it's going to be another great year. Again, our 70th anniversary. We're going to be talking to some of the people that have been around here for a long time and see what it means to them. And it's just going to be a great year, and we can't wait. It's cold now, but in 2 months, we'll be live here at Vernon Downs, and I'll be able to say my famous thing, they are ready to go. Here's a few people now that will tell you what it means to them, the 70th anniversary at Vernon Downs.
Hello, my name's Tony Mundy. I've been at this racetrack since 1954. I was 9 years old. My dad bought a horse in 1954. The track opened in 53. He bought a horse. He was one of the first owners in the area, first people in the area to have a horse. And so I'd come to races with 5,000-6,000 people here every night. And I started grooming horses with my brother because he became a groom, and I was about 15 in 1960, and he started training. I groomed with him, and he went on to vet school. He trained, he drove a few races, and I went to work for a few other people, Joe DeSantis, as a groom, and eventually got a job with a trainer, Townsend Ackerman. He was a great old horseman, had some world champions, and I learned many things with him. I worked for him for a couple years, and then I went on my own, and I got my driver's license, and I caught a few lucky breaks, which you need to have. You need to catch a break to do well, to get anywhere. And I got to drive some horses for Don Perkins because his regular driver got sick, and he let me drive a horse, and it won. And I won another race, and pretty soon I was on my way. And I was lucky enough to have some really great owners. Jim Januzzi, first of all, great owner from Syracuse, bought me some nice horses. And then Lon and Todd Frashone came, and they were my main owners for, since 1980, right up through so many years. And Lon always bought good race horses, and we had some really, really good horses, some good sire stake horses. For quite a few years, we did well in the sire stakes. I managed to win 3 sire stakes finals, which I was pretty proud of because it's not an easy thing to do. It's hard to get into the finals, harder to win them. And we never had a really big stable, 10, 12 horses. So it was, it's been good to me. The sport's been really, really good, and I've been fortunate to have owners like Lon and Todd Frashone that always gave me the opportunities that I needed. And I've always kept Vernon my home. I had chances when I was younger to go to different tracks. I had offers to go to New York and stuff, and I turned them down because I just didn't want to leave the area, leave my family. I had young kids. So I stayed here, and I was always glad I did because everything worked out well, and I did well. It was good to me. The sport was good. The horses were great, and I just enjoyed it, and was happy I stayed here.
Hey, I'm Chip Zombik. I'd like to congratulate Vernon Downs on the 70th anniversary of racing. I grew up here in the backstretch. My dad raced horses, and my dad started a couple years after the track opened, I believe. I remember when I was a kid, this place was a show place. Grand Circuit was Grand Circuit. It was a real deal. People that had horses here would leave the track so the Grand Circuit guys could come in, John Simpson, etc. When I was a kid, you couldn't cross the road where I lived to get the mail between 5 and 7 at night, and then obviously at night after the races. But I remember when I was a kid, the Route 5 would be packed. Buses were coming from Syracuse, Utica, Cortland to fill the place. It was a tremendous place to be. It still is, but the business obviously has changed with all the competition and such. I grew up on the backstretch playing at the Knockers bench or a kiddie stand with Howie Cusco Jr., George Johnson, etc. Our parents always kept an eye on us. Vernon was a place to be. It was just, it's home for me, and I started my career here, and will probably end my career here. For whatever it was, I've ground out a living, and that's it. And I'll always be grateful to Vernon Downs for that opportunity. I believe my dad, Stan Sr., started here right around 1955. Actually, Tony Mundy was talking to us earlier. My dad trained a horse named Cardinal Jane for Tony's dad when Tony was probably a teenager. And when I was 1 or 2 years old, my dad had bought a horse at the Syracuse auction. I believe the Chambers auction was held in Syracuse, named Wee Winky. He used to hit his knees so hard he'd fall down. Well, Dad was very proud of his leather spreaders, and he got the horse to participate, and he won races, and he's especially really good in the mud. His knee knockers are good in the mud. Well, I'm looking forward to this year's meet, 2023, hopefully to be a successful one. I've got a few babies. I got a couple of racehorses I own that we're hoping to grind out some money, and here's to the next 70 years at Vernon Downs.
My name is Leo O'Brien, and I'm a clerk here at Vernon Downs, Simon Casting, and I've been here since 1966 when I started. When I started in 1966, I ran money, which means I made change. All the clerks along the line, they would run out of, there was a lot of dollar bills, and I would have the change to make them at the window. So, and I did that for a while, and then I went in the money room, and I worked in the money room in there for 15 years. That was a great experience. And then this time of casting started, and I went out on the selling tickets, and I've been doing that ever since. I'm looking forward to a few more years. This is the 70th year of anniversary, and it's been great. People I work with are great, management, and the owners especially have been very generous over the years. I thank them very much.
I jogged my first horse when I was 7 years old right here at Vernon with my dad. I'm 66 now. So we started here, well, we've been here 60 years, and I started racing here with my father, my grandfather, my brothers here. My sister was in the horse business. It's a family affair. Back in the 70s and 80s, there was a lot of horses here. There was always at least 1,000 horses here. And times have changed because it's all more stake horses and stuff now, not as many overnights. But in the 70s and 80s, it was a little more family oriented than it is now. You'd see a lot of families in the business. We have all always been together. And now you have a lot of different people coming in from all over the country to race here. Vernon's fast. Everybody likes to race at Vernon. So we're looking forward to having the 70th anniversary here. We'll be on the road a little bit. We got a couple stake horses, but we do most of our racing here at home. So.
Hi, this is Mary Beth Nelson, and I first came to Vernon in 1993. I came with a Grand Circuit stable. We stayed the summer, and this was home. I loved it. I never left. So following that summer, I went to work for Howard Cusco Sr., and I just moved right in. Actually, I'm right back where I started this winter. I'm in the same spot I was when I worked for him, so that's kind of funny 30 years later. But so this is our 70th anniversary this year, and it's just a great place. It's a family track, and everybody knows everyone. We all support everyone. We want to really put on a good racing show for everyone, and hopefully everybody comes out this year and comes in, enjoys in all the festivities, and just has a great time.
Hi, my name is Leslie Delorenzo. I'm the mutual manager here at Vernon Downs. I started here in 1993 as a pari-mutuel teller. We've been through a few changes as far as ownership, and I was lucky enough to be here when we went to telephone account wagering, as well as we gave player rewards for our horse bettors. I've also been here about 30 years. Some of the people that I'd like to recognize for the amazing job that they do here at Vernon Downs is Arthur Wood. He is everywhere all the time. Scotty Warren is our race secretary, as well as probably 9,000 other hats that he wears. Jeff Gorell is our owner. He's always open for great suggestions and pretty well goes with the flow. He does like Vernon Downs. When I started, we were full-blown all over into what they now call the jungle. That was all open. We had information windows when I first started, so there's been a lot of changes, I'd like to especially thank John Horn, who has supported me in all of my endeavors. He's the kind of guy that just says, yep, we can do that. And enthusiastic. I love his enthusiasm. I love his calling of the races, and just, he's an all-around nice guy. I am so excited to celebrate 70 years of racing, and I truly hope we have about 70 more. I won't be here.
Hi, this is Ray Cable. I've been shoeing here at Vernon Downs for 31 years. This spring it'll be 31 years. Seen a lot of horses come through this shop and some great trainers, and I'm a third generation farrier in the industry. I actively right now in the family, there's 8 of us shoeing horses, all pretty much East Coast. My sons are into it, involved now, and pretty much going full time. So there's plenty of horses here at the track. There's some, like you said, there's great horses here, great horsemen, and there's plenty of work, but there's plenty of work shoeing at any track you go to. I'm looking forward to a great season coming up for the 70th year, and some great promotions coming. The track looks like it's going to be strong this year, and hopefully some new stables come in. We've fluctuates every year on what stables come here, but it's a great facility to train young horses and the older horses, just for the convenience of the 7/8 mile track. I would like to thank the management here at Vernon Downs, providing me with the shop to lease from them for the seasons. It's been fun here. Great season coming up again. Thanks a lot.
My name is Misty Carey. I moved to Vernon about 15 years ago. Well, I guess it's been 17 now, I guess. But my dad is Jeff Sorensen. He had an opportunity to come here with some horses of Roy Dobbins. We had a whole stable here. But I've worked for several people. I worked for Dan Daly for about a year. I worked for Tony Mundy. That was a really fun job. He's a really good guy. And then eventually I ended up getting my own stable, and I went from maybe 3 horses to start out with, and at the time we have about 25 counting all of our brood mares. It's a great place to train babies. We have a lot of versatility here on the track because we have a half, and we have the big track, and we have jog tracks. I also have a farm with a pool and a treadmill, so I kind of have all the tools to try to keep them going as long as I can. Our horses are our family. My son is in the business also. His name is Brennan. Most people know him around here. He's a pretty good kid. Trying to be a driver a little bit, dabbling around with training. I think he's the only one of the children that are going to be in the horse business, but it's still pretty cool to do it together.
My name is Jim Moran, and I consider myself a very fortunate fellow. I came from Massachusetts out to central New York to work at Vernon Downs at the request of my uncle, Bud Hebert. I was working as a bank teller in East Longmeadow, Massachusetts back in 1961, and I knew I was taking a gamble when I left my family and I left my job to come out here. But I was looking to bring some adventure and excitement into my life. So when I got to Vernon, I was welcomed by friendly, helpful associates, as well as beautifully gaited trotters and pacers and talented trainers and drivers. And I began my 52-year career as the Standardbred Sports Keeper of Records, the clerk of the course, as they called it at that time. And in the second year, I was promoted to Assistant Racing Secretary. I joined forces with Mickey McLean, who hired me, and Walt Boniface, and we would end up marrying daughters of the gentleman who helped build this track, and his name was Ed Keller, and you can see him here in the early days before I came here, getting the track ready, and they came down right to the very start of the track's opening night on 1953. Then I started my 50-year job as the track's announcer. I inherited the title Voice of Vernon Downs a few years later when I was named the track's publicity public relations director. Bud Hebert taught me how to become an announcer. It took me 2 or 3 years of painstaking calls and things. This is a picture of me when I first began to call races at the track without my uncle being present. These are the 2 top drivers of that era. One of them was Jack Bailey, who was my all-time favorite at Vernon Downs, and the other one was Glenn Garnsey, who was a very popular driver as well, and the son of one of the top training horsemen, Garland Garnsey. And a story that comes to me now is that Howie Okesko came out of the service and bought a home in Vernon Downs area, in the Vernon Downs area, and he went to work on building that racetrack there, the clubhouse, and then later on he became a trainer of horses at the track. He had 2 sons, Billy and Howie, and Howie was a top driver at the track, and they raced there for many years. So he not only did he help build the track, but he raced there, and his sons were top drivers there for a long time. First thing good thing that happened to me, I was there when Brad Hanover, who I consider one of the best horses in harness racing history, he was trained by a veteran horseman named Frank Irvin. He set records, and I can remember being extremely, extremely excited when he came to Vernon Downs and showed his promise. That's a picture of Brett and Frank Irvin. I didn't get a chance to call his 2-year-old race because my uncle was still calling the races on the weekend, but I was calling them Monday through Thursday. But I did get to call his world record and his other races that came up at Vernon Downs. Vernon Downs, as you'll see here from this program cover from the 60th anniversary, was called the home of the Miracle Mile. And the story of that is that he came to Vernon Downs for a race and paced a mile in 155 flat. That was on this racetrack with the chute, before a horse by the name of Albatross went 2 seconds, 2/5 of a second faster. The tracks in the New York State were allowed to become parimutuel operations, and Vernon Downs was the 8th track to get its license here in New York State. The track was started in 1952 and barely got finished when it opened at 53. 3 years after that, the pacer named Adios Harry turned in a mile in 155 flat, which was the fastest in the sport's history. The Utica newspaper christened that mile the home, Vernon Downs at that mile, the home of the Miracle Mile. Vernon became a member of the Grand Circuit, a sport short time later, which brought in the best of the horses in the area and from all the states where they raced on that Grand Circuit. Neville Pride was another horse that Stanley Dancer raced, and Moneymaker was a horse that was trained by Billy Andrews and went on to become one of the top trotters in the sport's history after a season over in Stockholm, Sweden. People I worked with along the way, Ed Keller, the general manager of the first racetrack, Mickey McLean, who hired me to work at Vernon Downs, Frank White Sr. and Jr., who carried on the tradition, John Signorelli, who changed the track from being a shoot 3/4 mile track to another design. Justice Cheney came in and helped out when the track had financial problems, and then Jason Sedamore and the current owner, Jeff Gural, took the track out of bankruptcy. Some of the major horses of the Grand Circuit raced at Vernon Downs for many years and brought in all the top trainers and drivers as well. And so it was a magical time for me and for the people I worked with. And we have a lot of history on the record books for miles that horses have set here. When I was in the racing secretary's office one day, I went out into the paddock and I saw Clint Galbraith there. And he had just finished working out a horse on the racetrack that I had seen. And I said to him, "Clint, looks like you got a nice colt there." And he says, "Let me tell you something. This is a horse that's really going to be special." And he turned out to be a very special pacer. And that horse that Clint was referring to turned out to be Niatros. He retired in 2014, and I felt bad about leaving the sport, but I wanted to spend more time with my family, and I've been able to do that for the past 10 years.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, everybody is ready for our 70th anniversary. We're so glad to have all these great horsemen back, and that their stories are just great. It's racing action at its best right here at Vernon Downs.